All right, we are here for race night. It will be race 8, and we're going to be at Brazil tonight. So far, it's just me in the box. We'll see if somebody else joins me. Starting out this week, surprisingly, will be dry all week, or this entire race. So Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3. We'll all be under the sun. Everybody at their core strengths, and we're gonna see how everybody's stacking up here as we now reach essentially the midpoint of the season. Definitely should be some good measuring sticks coming up here as we look to the standings. Formula 3, obviously we have Mark Miller leading the field right now. A couple more races under his belt. Excuse me. So, seeing him stacked up there with a win, 3 poles so far, 3 fast laps, but the rest of the field is catching him. They're catching fast. Last week it was Chester Kirk coming away with the win at Belgium, and we'll see what he can do. My favorite this one is probably going to be Lady Driver here with a solid background when it comes to the momentum tracks, and Brazil being one of those. So it's going to be interesting to see how Lady Driver there stacks up against the field. We have all the updates in for the race all the way up till about half an hour ago. So everybody's should be looking good here, and we'll give it another minute, and then we are going to start qualifying. With being by myself, there's going to be a little bit of back and forth, so it will be a bit of a challenge, but I think we'll get it done. Does look like I have Mike in with me now.
Yes, hello everybody. Welcome to race 8 in Brazil.
That is right. So I went over a little bit of the basics there already. But basically going to give it another minute here, and then we're going to jump right into qualifying here with Formula 3.
Right on F3, F2, and F1, the usual triple feature tonight. So Brazil, a very nice circuit, one of my personal favorites of the international circuits here that we have on our schedule. It's a very nice track. Should be a very interesting challenge. You get some nice long straights where you can really use that top end speed, but you also have a very weavy sector 2 that should have a lot of runoff on it in the profile. So certainly where you're going to have to be on top of your game, and you're going to have a little bit of focus through that middle sector, but carrying all the speed through the straights might ultimately be how you wind up winning the race. So it's going to be really interesting. Tire management should be very valuable here.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how that tire plays out, especially in this first race where we're only talking about 15 laps. The tire wear. I mean, even on softs, you still would need a two stop process there to get that done. And we've been seeing the success in people taking that late stop for some softs. So we'll see if that pays off again today.
Yeah, staying out has not been the right strategy call so far through the first, now 7 races complete. It's been do not stay out, come in and get the tires, and then be faster than everybody else, because it's harder to deal with the back markers when you're sliding all around the circuit.
Exactly, creating more damage, creating more issues, and most likely falling down that leaderboard. All right, needless to say, I think we're going to start off with qualifying here.
Alright, and we start qualifying here at Brazil when we cross the line, and here we go. So it's Angelic Johnson, driver Muller, I go quick, Mamiya. That is who crossed the line first. We'll see who crossed the line when we get to actual qualifying. Really good start, really good sector 2 for Angelic here. As they come around the final corner, this should be a nice qualifying lap, although driver, that is a great last end there. So used a ton of turbo at the end of that lap to take the pole position. So another thing, how do you use the turbo? Well, it's really good. Driver comes in the Hot Wheel car and takes P1. Johnson in the McLaren in P2. Angelic, then Muller, Savage, I go quick, Mamiya, Carlin, Von Salinar, and Mouse. That's 1 through 10. A reasonable gap from first to second, by the way. 2 tenths is little. Usually, we see tighter gaps than that, but this one's a bit bigger of a gap, so we'll see if driver can dominate today. 11 through 20, Simmer, Fox, Pilgrim, Toast, Splits, Pablo, Kurd, Bushlight, Oslins, and Alexander round out your top 20.
All right, so saying that, I think we're going to lean right into getting rolling here and see where this goes.
We are at 5 lights and away we go. Driver gets out on the medium compound tires and is immediately out in front. Johnson is finding Angelic on a hard and soft compound tire. Important for Johnson to try and get ahead first, but Angelic moves up into the second position. He will be fighting for first. Again, first on medium tires. That's on driver. Angelic is on the soft compounded tire, so you're really going to have to watch him coming out of the corners and down the straights. Driver's going to lead the first lap here at Brazil, but Angelic's going to make the move into turn 1. And he will get through the S1, 2, 3, and 4, and he will get up in the lead in first place. Driver will try and fight back with the DRS, but will not be able to. So Angelic out front early because of those soft compound tires. He starts P3, gets up into P1 immediately, bumping and banging back in the mid-teens places. 2 side-by-side drivers there. Now we're actually going to have driver come bucket on Angelic and get by. We're going to have Carlin try and come in on Angelic as well and go straight by, so that's a nice move for Carlin. He started in the mid-low digits. He's already up to P2 here and fighting at driver, so it looks like it's about turbo down those straights. Who's got that top end speed? As now driver once again winds up in front of the third lap of the race, and Carlin will come through in second place on Angelic, then Johnson, Savage, I go quick, Simmer, Muller, von Salinar, Mamiya, Fox, Splits, Toast, Mouse, Pilgrim, Pablo, Kurd, O'Zolins, Bushlight, and Alexander is your running order, I should say, over 4 laps. Good action all the way through the field, no gaps bigger than 2 seconds just yet, although it should be said, of course, we are only 4 laps into this race here in the beautiful country of Brazil, so drivers should have a good advantage here. You see those softs are supposed to last 7 to 12 laps, so those medium tires should be good enough to do a one-stop race. Softs, you're probably going to want to stop twice if you do double soft tires, but I think drivers should certainly be able to medium to soft here. Johnson in third, very much able to go hard to soft, and those will be fresh softs at the end of the race, so look out for Johnson if he can just keep the pace and keep it right here, keep it in this podium place as he moves up to second, keep it near the podium, he can come up and snatch something when you get toward the end.
You know, I think that what we talked about early on in this race in regards to the pit strategy is going to play a huge role, because you see how these hards last longer than the total lap count that we have. In saying that, we also see how everything falls off at the end, and somebody out in the lead, as we've seen before in previous races, if they stay out too long, that is exactly as what put the dagger in the coffin for them to basically lose the win.
So lap 7, no pit. Oh, I was about to say no pit stops, but we got one. I Go Quick is going to come in pit off the hard compound tires. Must not have liked them. Goes on to the softs. So that's a really interesting stop from the hards to the softs. It's been a pretty quiet race from them so far. We'll see if that triggers a midfield absolute accordion of stops. Although I kind of doubt it will. There's a couple of more pits here. Slips. Carlin comes in, so it actually triggers the front runners afraid of a heavy undercut. So here comes the soft tire guys. Angelic comes in. Carlin, Savage, Shimmer, von Salinar are in. So the softs have definitely hit the clip about 7-8 laps there.
Yep. So those softs they're gonna try and go soft to soft to finish up here.
Yeah, Driver and Johnson, those still out in front. So yeah, so they're going to go soft. So if they hit the cliff at 7, you're going to be at the maybe 8, I guess. Some of the guys that say you're going to be at the cliff right as you finish the race. So these guys, even if you catch these guys, which it doesn't look like any of them are going to do, there's a 3.5 second gap to Johnson, a 3.5, almost 4 second to Angelic. Even if you do catch before they come pit, they're going to catch you back again at the end. Angelic is rapidly closing up to Johnson, who is on hard-worn, hard compound tires. So this is the Angelic strategy, the soft-to-soft strategy. This is where you're going to make your hay. The guys who went longer out front, you got to get by them and get the distance to them as much as you can, as Johnson blocks very well into the downhill right. Angelic, try to go around the outside. Johnson will use the turbo. He's got a bunch of it stored up. He will dump it all down the straight to stay ahead, and as we get into the light traffic, Angelic is stuck. Driver has come in and pitted for the soft compound tires. So that's, by the way, that's only 4 laps to do on those tires. There's not much to do at all. Johnson has not stopped. You would assume he comes this lap as he maintains, actually that second place. I've got my eyes tracked on a back marker there. So Johnson should come in this time. I can't imagine why he wouldn't. No, he stayed out. Unless he's trying to finish the race, that probably should have been the lap you pitted. You got to have enough time to get done what you want to do. We'll reset the running order here for you with nearly everybody pitted. Angelic, Driver, Johnson, Carlin, Savage, Shimmer, von Salinar, I Go Quick, Mamiya, Muller, Fox, Toast, Pilgrim, Mouse, went away, O'Sullivan's, Alexander, Pablo, Bushlight, Cord, and Splits. That is your running order. Johnson does not pit with only 2 to go. We are on the penultimate lap here at Brazil. It is Angelic. Driver's right back to it. Angelic out in front as we go through that downhill right, then go through the chicane as we go up to this nice big bender onto the back straight. Does Driver have any answer for Angelic's pace out front as we go to the final lap? Does Johnson stop? No, he didn't stop. Okay, so I guess Johnson just decided he doesn't want to pit this entire race, and it's cost him a podium. Driver goes out in front of Angelic using the turbo here on the final lap, opening up nearly a 1 second gap. Now it's a 1.5 seconds. Saved all the turbo for the end, and Driver wins Formula 3 at Brazil. Great win up front on Hillick and Carlin complete. No, Simmer stole it right at the end. I thought it was going to be Carlin who completed the podium. He was ahead just by the nose of the car there, but no, it's Simmer. Well, I guess the game can't decide whether it was Simmer or Carlin. They're saying it's both, apparently. We'll have to see what that says on the post-race results. Johnson finishes 5th, Savage 6th, Von Salen are 7th, I Go Quick 8th, Mamiya 9th, Muller, Pilgrim, and Fox. That's 10, 11, 12, Mouse, Toast, Pablo, 13, 14, 15, then Ozens, Kurd, Bushlight, Splits, and Alexander finish the race. So a nice fastest lap for Angelic, a consolation prize, hell easy for me to say. But a really good day for VW IBM. They get 2 podium place finishing cars. It's always great when you can do that. Hot Wheels, I believe, will still be the winning constructor with a P1 and a P7. A good day for the McLarens too. They were very quick here, 5th and 6th for those guys. Congratulations, driver, the winner for Hot Wheels Racing.
All right, and just going down the order here. Driver's going to take the win, as Mike was mentioning, with Angelic. Taking the fast lap. Simmer in 3rd, Carlin in 4th, Johnson, Savage, and the McLarens go 5th and 6th. Von Salinar in 7th. I Go Quick in 8th. Mamiya sandwiched between the Mercedes there in 9th, and Muller in 10th.
And the rest of the results, P11, 12, 13 goes Pilgrim, Fox, and Mouse. Bad day for the Ferrari engines, Mouse and Toast, 13, 14. Then Pablo of the Hendrick, they've really fallen off since the early going there. Ozelins and Kurd in the Aston Martin, then Bushlight in the other Hendrick, Moladra's Splits, and Maple Streep's Alexander finish it up. 4 constructors scoring, no points.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to setting up Formula 2. If you wanted to give a little insight into the points, feel free. Otherwise, I can also touch on those as soon as I get Formula 2 set up.
Okay, yeah, so as we get into Formula 2 here, it should be a very interesting race. So if we look at the standings right now, if I can find them to pull up, I gotta click on the right thing here. There we go. Excuse me one moment while I load this up. So Late for Bingo is your current leader of the points after we're at 7 races now here in Formula 2, 102 points. So he's reasonably clear of the field. 2 wins and a couple of second places. Overall, 5 podiums for Late for Bingo. Van der Buysen is in second right now at 70 points. Then Popcat and Jackson Seil are tied on 59 points. There's a very close race in the middle of this championship, but the top of it, though, with Late for Bingo, 32 points, well clear. The first leader of the championship, Pierre Dadley, is all the way down now in the 8th position on 35 points. So it's been a big time fall off for him. The guy who won the first race has not finished in the points since then. He has finished there once since then, I should say. Not finished above 10th, but that one time he finished in the points. As far as the most consistent driver in Formula 2, obviously Late for Bingo, except for the 18th in Singapore and the 13th in Britain, has been in the top 3 every other race. But really, it's been Van der Buysen at 12, 4, 8, 7, 3, 1, and 6. Only one race where he did not finish in the points. Every other driver has at least one race where they didn't finish, at least 2 races, I should say, where they finished out of the points. It's been really tight in F2. All that to say, really tight so far in Formula 2.
Absolutely has.
Only one repeat winner.
Yeah, absolutely has. I mean, and when you look over at the constructors race in Formula 2, I mean, Late for Bingo, 102 out of the 104 points. They are, Late for Bingo has, leading, I mean, if the sole basically points earner for McLaren, who is leading the Constructors' Championship somehow, and it really is stemmed behind his dominance so far to start this first half of the season. So, to get started here, I think we will start heading to qualifying for Formula 2.
All right, let's go to qualifying here in Brazil for F2. One lap of qualifying here for F2. We have 2 for F1, and it is Steve who looks like he's going to cross the line first, but remember, it's not if you cross it first, it's if you cross it first the second time. Looks like we are getting just a little bit of squeak ahead here from Utah. Now he uses some of that turbo early in the lap here through the downhill right. Tries to get ahead. He's got a very big gap, but we'll see who dumps the turbo as they come down the straight. And nope, Utah still had plenty left. He will take a very comfortable pole. That was, wow, that was a mighty impressive lap there from Utah. That was, what, 6/10 from the Aston Martin? Yeah, 5.5. So 5.5 tenths. The gap, everybody else was pretty close. Thoth and Steve were close. 5/10 and 6/10 behind the leader, respectively, at 24.12 and a 24.18. Then there was a decent gap, a 24.47 to a 24.65. That was P4 to P10. Here's the actual starting order for the Grand Prix. Utah starts up top in first in the Aston Martin. Then Moladra of Thoth starts second. Steve and Bingo make up the second row. That's a Ferrari and a McLaren. Wong van der Buysen make up row 3 in a Maple Street and a VW IBM. By the way, that is 6 different constructors in the top 6 starting places. Then you make it 8 different constructors in the top 8 starting places, with Albano for Hendrick and Gordon Jr. for Hot Wheels. Then finally a repeat constructor with Condors and the Aston Martin Miller in the Hot Wheel. 11 through 20, Ray, Maldonado, and Sile. 11, 12, 13, Popket, Topolo, Vanegas. 14, 15, 16, Topolo, the highest qualifying Alpiner. Dadley, of Hendrick is 17th. Dakari of Moladra is 18th. Andrews in Alpiner 19th. And Bergen in the McLaren in 20th.
All right, we won't do any delay here. We will head right into the race.
"24 laps in Brazil, 5 lights, and it's out and away we go." Utah starts on a hard compound tire, so he's going to get passed early by Toth, who gets out front, but now caught up in traffic. Had Steve right up his rear wing there, so Utah's going to get his lead back. Bingo and Steve fighting it out for second. Now Bingo comes ahead. Steve fighting it for third with Wong and Thoth, and there is an absolute mess back here. A cacophony of cars. Bingo is actually going to lead the first lap. Utah really lost it on the straight there. Now they're too wide. Steve trying to sneak up the inside. He's trying to go from 5th to 1st. He's going to shove it down the outside. Now he gets his inside opened up by Wong, and now Wong's ahead. Now Steve's going to trade it back. They're beating and banging, taking some damage, and now Steve is going to roll down the straight, try to catch Bingo on the soft compound tires. So 1, 2, 3 as I wasn't going to call it yet because we aren't cleared away, because Wong and Gordon are fighting with Steve. Steve is going to give up the position to Gordon and to Wong. This has been an absolute pole rope so far. Everybody's just pulling off each other. Gordon is going to get up underneath a Bingo, force him out. He just moved him out of the way. He will lead lap 3 and set a new fastest lap in the process. So Gordon takes himself into the lead of this race. What a mess of a start. It is tight, fighty, and mighty as Steve is threatening Bingo's second place position. He will overtake Forset's second place position and try and roll off the corner and head after Gordon. Steve doing a good job of managing those medium compound tire, and he's going to threaten Gordon down the inside into the long corner there, and he's going to get him. Now into the downhill, he'll keep it. Now up through the chicane, Steve will get it. Will stay in first place. No passes there through that chicane in the top 4. Just as I say that, down the back straight, Utah gets back into 3rd position. So again, I think in F3 the race was really too short there, Wally, for the hards to do anything. It just kind of turned into they're going to stay out the whole race and we're just going to see what happens. Now in this race, I think hard to soft is where you see the hard actually do something, because softs you probably have to stop 3 times.
I agree, completely agree with you on that. This race distance absolutely opens up a bunch of different strategies. And we should be
And I think
seeing them come to pits here soon, within the next
yeah,
few
soft
laps
drivers
on
are going to have to
softs.
pit soon. I think also you see with this race, you see a lot of different compound choices. Well over half the field started on the softs last time. This was not well over half the field. This is just about even the cars who chose those soft tires and the cars who chose those harder compounds. So right before the pit stops, I want to get the running order done quickly. It's Gordon, Utah, Steve Wong, and Bingo. All 5 of those have been intermingled throughout the first several laps here. Then Sile, Albano, Kanders, Popcat, and Dadley, Van der Buysen. He's intermingling 8, 9, 10, 11 in that bunch there. They have been very competitive. Thoth has actually pitted, so he pitted out of the line there, so he was probably second or third when he pitted, I would assume. Ray, Venegas, Dakari, Miller, Paulo, Maldonado have pitted. They pitted from the teens places, I believe. Andrews and Bergen rounds up your 1 through 20 your running order so far in Brazil, but I'm looking for a pit stop here. Gordon's not going to stop. Steve's not going to stop. So these softs are actually lasting longer than they did in F3.
Now,
Gordon has been nice to his tires. Asile did come pit, though. So there's soft runners are starting to come. Bingo has already come. Gordon's just doing a good job keeping his tires on. As I say that, he almost slams Wong into next week, and Gordon's got to brake hard here down the straight to actually get into pit road. So that's 10 laps. That's really good use of those tires. Do you think he makes mediums last to the end if he can get 10 laps out of the softs?
I mean, let's take a look here. 10 to 14. I mean, it's absolutely feasible. As you see, this is what we're at with about 11 laps on these tires right now on Wong. So, knowing, talking from the game standpoint, knowing that they try and limit pitting when it gets to the end of the race, I could definitely see somebody, if they are on mediums here, switching over to mediums now within this window. I see them staying up for the remainder of the race.
Yeah, it could be really interesting. So Wong's going to come in. Utah coming in at the same time off the hard tires. Didn't actually use the hard advantage that much there. Could have started on the mediums probably. Steve staying out on the mediums for 13 laps. So I guess that does answer my question. Could you see a full-length race here from Gordon? The answer is no, because Steve is really struggling around the bends of the circuit. He is going to have to get that thing in this lap. I would hope. Yeah, he is going to come in. So Wong will assume the lead of the race, followed by Gordon. And then Steve is going to come out third after the pit stop, just ahead of Sile. He will use the turbo to make it so. So after one set of pit stops, except for Van der Buysen, it's Wong, Gordon, Steve, Bingo, Sile, and Utah, your top 6. The rest of your points, if Van der Buysen, who has to pit, Thoth, Albano, and Dadley.
Yeah, I mean, the thing to look at here, though, is a lot of these drivers, I would say Gordon Jr. is in the best position right now on those mediums, because all these other drivers that are chasing him down right now are going to be on softs, and those tires are going to start to run out near the end of this race.
Well, yeah, if they don't stop, another time and he gets that pit stops advantage, he's just got to stay in his top 2 position. What he has to do, if you're sitting in the cockpit of second place right now with Gordon, you just got to weather the storm. Don't get beaten up on the back markers here. Just run your race, run nice controllable laps. Don't go off. Just stay on the circuit, stay on the tarmac, and then when you get to the end of this race, pop in, grab a quick switch of tire, and then burn it down the last couple laps like we've seen happen in this series already.
Yes, exactly.
Because those soft runners, we're about, probably since the first set of stops, as we see Bingo's in for his second time, so we're about ready to see that second set of stops already. Gordon, I think, will be 4 or 5 laps behind that if he comes. Well, what you don't want to do if you're Gordon is get a little cocky, think your tire management's too good, and you go all the way to the end, then you wind up 5th like we saw last race.
Yes, yep, and we see Wong here taking on some damage, trying to deal with some back markers here.
Yeah, the blue flags have not been kind to race leaders. That has stayed true through 8 weeks. And one thing you really notice here, Wally, with the developing racing series and a bunch of developing drivers, we see a lot less people going off.
Yes, you absolutely do. There's so much less what we would call drifting in real life, which is on the cars here. It's just the tires wanting to come around on you every time.
No more awkward Formula One cars using that handbrake.
Yep.
So it's Wong, followed by Steve, followed by Utah, and Gordon has slipped all the way back down to fourth. So there's the danger, right? So there's the danger. What happens if these guys on soft tires make them last, but they're faster than you? There's a 3-second gap from Wong to Gordon Jr. I do want to mention the midfield a little bit, because it's not just about the race winners. The gap between right now the last points paying position and the points paying position is Canders to Popcat, and it's about 2.5 seconds. Now Canders hasn't pit yet off the hard compounded tire. That's his second tire. So Canders should have Popcat, should have a shot at getting to him. He's got a 1.6 second gap there now, but on the softs for the second stint, he may still have to come. So the points is not paid yet. Will Wong come in? No. Steve is going to pass as well, and Gordon is still cruising along firmly in third. So maybe everybody's going to the end.
Well, in mentioning that, though, look at Gordon here. He is absolutely tracking these two down.
Yeah, because he's still got some tire life left. He doesn't. I kind of thought he'd have to come right about now, but he does have the tire life. Wong's got to come in, I think. No, not going to bring it in. So I think this is going to the end. So this should be Gordon's race, although does Sile have enough time on fresher tires than anybody in the top 4? He's got 3 seconds to get to Steve. I don't know if he can do it. Steve just went off. All right, so it's Wong out front, staying out till the final lap of the race. So Wong trying to make a one-stop from soft to soft work with a bunch of damage. Gordon is a second behind. Was a second and a half. Now it's a second. Now it's less than a second. Stuck behind all kind of back markers. There are 3 back markers going 3 wide in the way. Gordon shoots the half and gets by all of them. Coming down the back straight. He's got a bunch of DRS saved up as we come to the line. It is Wong just barely holding off Gordon. 1/10 of a second. I wonder if that back marker wasn't there down the outside, who would have won the race. So Wong followed by Gordon, Siles, Steve, Bingo, Van de Buysen, Utah, Thoth, Albano, Popcat, then Dadley, Miller, and Topolo are running 12 and 13 right now, as there's the race finisher. So Dadley finishes 11th, Miller 12th, then Topolo. Now they finally cross the line. Condors 14th, Venegas 15th. Here comes Ray, down to its 16th. Dakari 17th, Maldonado 18th. Andrews is all the way back, hasn't even hit the back straight yet, and they are going to call the race and just tell Andrews to get into the pits. So a big win for Maple Street. Wong picks up the win here. And the fastest lap there, so that's full points and the fastest lap point, so that's a great race. Then the Hot Wheels of Gordon, who had a really nice drive, just didn't see that second stint soft fall off. An interesting note for Formula One. Sile in the Mercedes, Steve in the Ferrari, Bingo in the McLaren, Van der Buysen in the VW IBM. Then there's an Aston Martin of Utah. Then there's a Moladra of Thoth. Then there's a Hendrick of Albano, and then there's a Ferrari of Popcat. So if I am not mistaken, we have 9 different constructors up here?
There are 9 different constructors that finished that race in the top 10.
And 9 different constructors in the top 9 places, by the way.
Pretty awesome to see that.
It's not like Formula 3 where there were pretty tight groupings and there was 4 constructors who missed out on points. It looks like the rainbow up there in the top 6 places.
Yes, it does. Yep. Yeah.
So missing out on points by just a couple of seconds. There was Dadley, then Miller, Topolo, Kanders and Venegas, Ray, Dakari, Maldonado, Andrews, and Bergen. Alpiner was the team that did not score points. Unfortunate.
Yeah, momentum tracks for Alpiner are, I mean, when you look at the skill of the driver and at momentum, it is not extremely high. So it's not necessarily a surprise. Obviously, you'd like to see us you'd like to see that surprise, maybe a little bit of that luck, but it just wasn't falling into place there for Nash Tapau, who finished at the team high 13. All right, I'm gonna switch over to F1 here, get this ready, and then we will hit the road with the feature race.
All right, feature race coming up. Formula One in just a moment. All right, so as we get things set up here for Formula One, I do want to mention the standings real quick. So Oshag Hennessy is at the top right now after a 16th finish to start the year. He has scored points, in fact, a podium in every race, except for Mexico where he finished 5th. So there's 102 points. One fastest lap on the year, by the way, should be mentioned. So there's a Ferrari in first. Then there's a Ferrari of Bobby Brooks in second place. So it's been virtually all Ferrari here early on, at least as far as the overall picture goes. 193 points for the dominating Ferraris. Then next is the McLarens with just 111 points with Selic and Raikkonen. Then Maple Stroop is in third with the Furious Chicken and Victory. So if you look at the race results of the top three there, so Selic has 2 wins. He is our only back-to-back winner, or back-to-back, he's only 2-time winner in Formula One. And it should be interesting here because the guy who's leading the championship right now by 11 points over his teammate does not have a race win. Bobby Brooks has a race win in Spain, but Oshag Hennessy has 5 second places. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Michael Selic won last time out in Belgium. He also won in Austria, so he is on a torrid pace. His highest finish before Austria was 7th. He's had 2 firsts and a 4th since.
Yeah, noting that comment of the bridesmaid status when it comes to Hennessy. This last race in Belgium, I mean, that was a race that came down to just minute distance to finish there, with Selic inching out that win to steal away what was potentially the first victory for Hennessy, and stole that from him. So I'm excited to see where tonight's race is going to take Ferraris here. They have just been dominant all season, and so you really at some point you almost come to expect it from them, and you see, okay, what's next, and going back to a momentum track, which we've had momentum tracks before. You have to imagine that they're going to be at the top there. However, there's a bunch of other drivers here that are absolutely capable of meeting that challenge today too.
Well, I mean, look, we thought that they were going to dominate Italy from bell to bell, and it was Furious Chicken who wound up stealing that away. In Italy, in the home race, Furious Chicken for the Maple Stroop wound up bringing home P1 there. So even at the momentum tracks, it's not necessarily a slam dunk for Ferrari. They did wind up being the winning constructor because they brought home 2-3 that day, but they didn't win the race.
I'm curious to see how Hot Wheels is going to do this week for this race here in Brazil. I think they're positioned today to make a little bit more movement, get some points this race, and start climbing up those constructor championships leaderboard. If there's a surprise for me this race, it's going to be one of those two, Carpentier or Destruc, to see what they can do.
Yeah, Hot Wheels 9th right now in the constructors. They could really use some points.
But in saying that, reminding everybody, we will 2 laps for qualifying. So I'm sure we'll mention it here as we get into it, but just obviously forewarning for any new watchers here tonight with us. And in saying that, I think we are ready to go.
Again, as always, the big thing with 2 laps of qualifying, do you shoot everything the first lap, or do you hold something back and try and run a stronger second? We've seen the stronger second kind of play out better, I think. So we'll see what goes on in Brazil. And And we start qualifying here in Brazil. Should be about a 22-second lap is what we're looking for. And Brooks is going to take us to the lead. So the field comes through on their laps. We look at the timings here. These have all already been run. We just need to see what times they actually ran. So Brooks is in front right now with Destruc. We'll see who comes through and has the best first lap of qualifying. Looks like it's gonna perhaps be Brooks. Yes, it is. So Brooks in front right now. That is a 23.67. A little bit slower than I thought it was going to be. I thought we were going to get closer to 23. Maybe we will on lap 2. B.A. Hood is really grooving right now. He's come from, if you look at the Ghost, about 4th, out to the front. But here comes the burning of the turbo. Is anybody going to get to Hood? No, but Hennessy, that's kind of more what I thought. It was going to be in the 23. So Hennessy is going to get the second best lap there. That was pretty reasonably close for that Ferrari, who kind of didn't have the best lap 1 there. He was in the lower places in the starting grid. So here's your starting grid. The front row is Hood and Hennessy, and then a second row lockout from Hot Wheels. You were right. A good observation there, Wally. Get your eyes on the prize as always. Brooks and Sillett is row 3. Row 4 is P.I. Hood and Chicken. Burkhart and Ree are 9th and 10th. Devil from Alpina and Lewis from Hendrick in 11th and 12th. Shettle and Strategy from the Mercedes and the Hendrick are 13th and 14th. Bobby and De La Torre in 15th and 16th. The Mercedes and the Maladra. Raikkonen in the McLaren 17. Jobin in the Alpina in 18. Carvalho in the Maladra 19. And Bass in the VW IBM 20th.
So obviously, with not having Zune here, my question always is, who would be an upset pick here for you to maybe steal a win here in Brazil?
Well, look, it's odd to say that the man on pole position can be considered a guy for an upset, but I do kind of think that's what it'd be if Paul Hood won the race. He's not a guy who's expected to win a race. They're in 5th in the constructors right now. He himself is not even the highest scoring Aston Martin. He only his brother Pierre is 5th in the standings with 61 of the Aston Martin's points. He didn't really have that many. Paul is all the way down to 19th. He's only had 6 points all year. And now he's on the pole for Brazil. He's going to have to fight back 2 Ferraris and 2 Hot Wheels who look real strong here. So I actually think that kind of the upset would be if the pole sitter got it.
I like it. I really do. I mean, between that and those pair of Hot Wheels there sitting sandwiched between the Ferraris, I think we're in for an awesome race. I really do.
Of every driver who has scored points this year, Paul Hood is the lowest.
Yes. So let's see what he can do. We'll wind these guys up here and let them go here in Brazil.
All right, so the man 19th in the standings is going to lead us away. Lights out and away we go. Paul Hood choosing the medium compounded tires. He is immediately blown by Hennessy and Destruc on the soft compounded tires. Not to start the pole sitter once, but frankly, probably not his race out front. He just wants a nice top 3 finish. All right, Destruc is going to lead us round the bend, and he is going to lead lap 1 of 34. Belt in. This one's going to be a bit, as Hood takes second back from Hennessy, so he's showing good fight here early. Carpentier is falling back. Brooks and P.I. Hood, that's Pierre Hood, coming around in 4th and 5th. Selic is fighting with Carpentier, softs and mediums there. There's a lot of medium and hard tires. I think there's less softs than anything else, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of people favoring go long. Hood is actually out front. He snuck out in front of the strip just for a moment there, then really got him as he went down the short little straight there before the downhill right. That was interesting. So Hood's well out front now. Must have used some turbo in Sector 2. We'll see if Destruc can come back at him as we come down toward the 4th lap. Carpentier, Hennessy, and Pierre Hood are nice and tight here. 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
I think the medium tires right now are working really well, a lot better than what we saw in Formula 2. Even though we see Destruc taking back the lead, these trio of medium tires are really looking good right now.
Yeah, Destruc just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. I think it's fairly obvious that he used a really nice bit of turbo there to get him into that position. So yeah, I think the medium looks like the best racing tire. You look at Brooks and Hennessy. Hennessy's up a little bit, but Brooks has fallen back from his starting place. So the Ferrari's not looking as strong as I thought, and the Hot Wheels are looking just as strong as you thought they would. They're on a medium tire right now. And a horde of pitters that were bumping and banging in the back. That is Jobin, Shettle, and Strategy that were caught up in a disaster there in the back. So they have to come in, fix the damage, get on new tires, get back out, and try and labor around and see if they can make something out of the rest of this race, having to pit only 6 laps in. A couple of those guys were on harder compounded tire too. So Destruc is up front by 2 seconds. Hood and Carpentier are trading back and forth. And it's Hennessy in 4th, Pierre Hood in 5th, Brooks in 6th, then Selic in the McLaren, the highest McLaren, in 7th, Chicken in 8th, Ree in 9th, the Devil is in 10th. He is right there with Lewis. They are neck and neck, barely less than a 10th between them. Lewis is actually going to cruise by his Devil. Takes an interesting route into the pits. Nailed it. Raikkonen will go by him, but he was 13th before the Devil pitted. Then Bobby, who doesn't have any points yet, Jobin, Devil, Shettle, De La Torre, Carvalho, Bice, and Strategy. I almost got through that before the first official round of pit stops. Here's Destruc pitting onto the mediums from the soft compounded tires. There's a Ferrari coming into the pits. That was Brooks, so he got first pit. And Carpentier and Paul Hood still fighting away for first place on a working set of medium compound tires. Ooh, Hood went off there. That was kind of nasty. He's going to have to use the turbo to come back at Carpentier here, and he will slide by. So the Aston Martins leading here early because of the Ferraris that pitted. It's Aston Martin 1 in 3 right now, doing real well in this race. And then it's Carpentier and Destruc in the Hot Wheels that are doing great as well. And actually, Destruc, who's on fresh tires, just went by a Hood. So he's in 3rd. So, yeah, a damn good race from the team that was 9th coming into this.
Yeah, I mean, seeing Aston Martin, Hot Wheels, Aston Martin, I mean, it's something that's, a little bit fresh right now. We haven't been used to that, as the Ferraris have been kings at the top of the leaderboard lately. And so seeing some new names up at the top is always awesome for the league, but it's really cool to see them get some TV time here too.
Yeah, so the top 3 right now is Carpentier, Destruc, and Hood. If you look at Paul Hood, you look at the standings right now, Destruc is in 12th, Carpentier is in 16th, and Hood is in 19th. So these are guys who aren't even in the same photo as the guys up top, like Hennessy, Brooks, and Selic, but they are leading the race right now. Things I won't say they're flipped on their head, because it's not like Hennessy and Co are in last or anything, but we're just about flipped on our head here so far.
Now, I will say, I don't know, right before you were talking about where they were at points, Paul Hood missed his pit entrance as he was blocked in by one of the Hot Wheels drivers. So, he ended up going an extra lap from what he wanted to there, and we'll see how that sort of affects him as he was trying to get in there before losing a little bit more ground.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate to miss a pit entry. It's something that you just cannot do, even if you have to brake check somebody. Selfishly, for your own race, you need to get it done. So Destruc is going to lead him down. He has a 5-second gap to Carpentier. Wasn't pitted even, by the way. So he is going to have one hell of a gap. This has kind of turned into the Carpentier show, and especially since Hood had that misplay on pit road, I don't know who's going to get back to him. Yeah. He's got a 8-second lead to Hood, who went to the hard tire. So at this point, he's almost got the pit stop.
Yeah, and the stops if he can stretch this out, maybe get another. Well, I mean, we're not even halfway through the race, so I can imagine he'll be making 2 more stops here.
I almost think you could hard and maybe you could get to the end here. If you're Destruct, he's 8 seconds ahead now of Hood. Carpentier is trying to get to second here. He is catching up rapidly to Paul Hood. Just 1 second between the two drivers here. So we're going to see him try and come down the front stretch and see if he can get there. Yeah, he got him. Front stretch, back stretch. Confusing the racing terminology as we go through the chicane uphill. Nice big left. Now we go down the front straight. Does Hood have an answer? Yes, he does. He has got being stuck behind a back marker. I think Raikkonen not happy to get out of his way and gets Carpentier second place back. So Hood did have him. I mean, Hood was going to get him, and then Raikkonen is just getting in the way. He's getting boxed out by Ferrari strategy and Jimmy Raikkonen. And Hood is going to have to burn the turbo to stay with Carpentier, and that is a complete missed pit by Ricky Bobby. You see him drive it into the wall there, trying to get into his pit stall.
Driving it into the wall and then driving it into the third place driver. So not ideal for Hood, who's trying to make those tires last on those hards.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I don't know how close we're getting here, but you might be winding up with some brawls in the haulers here, because my God, there are some real stiff battles going on between the back markers and the front guys, and you know the guys up front don't love that.
Absolutely. Now, we've also seen that Brooks has climbed up to 4th. Hennessy's still struggling back there in 8th as we keep an eye on the Ferraris and their dominance.
Or lack of, really.
Yes.
I mean, for this race.
Yep.
So Lewis is one of the first guys to pit a second time, so he didn't have to pit with Shettle, Jobin, and Strategy there early on due to damage. So of the guys who pitted in a regular cycle, he is the first one to pit. He went on to soft tires, so we'll have to see if he can, get up and try and fight for a podium place. As we have lapped pretty much the entire field with District. I think we're on, 6 people who haven't gotten a lap so far? As Carpentier goes by Jobin, so even second place, who was well adrift for quite a while, has put in some laps at this point as District comes and Carpentier comes. So this is a double stack. Can they pull it off? Well,
we can call it pulled off with a bit of a shove.
Well, I don't know if you wanted a crash on pit lane, but I guess you can call it pulled off because they didn't lose a tremendous amount of time and they got Carpentier right out behind Hood, and they are side by side dogfighting it through the corners down the front stretch. Hood is going to pull off into the pits, and it's going to be 2 Hot Wheels out in front by miles. 11 laps to go here in Brazil. SCOR Racing F1, the feature here of our 3-tier race. Wally is joining me. He's running things. I am Leatherneck Mike. Thank you for joining us on a very nice Monday night here in the 1st of May. Running order right now is Distruc, Carpentier, Chicken, then the Hood brothers, Brooks, Ree, Hennessy, Selic, Shettle, Lewis, Jobin, Devil, Burkhardt, Ricky Bobby, Jimmy Raikkonen, Ferrari Strategy, De La Torre, Carvalho, and Bass is in dead last, unfortunately. Not the greatest race for Edward Bass and VW IBM Racing, who currently sits 7th in the point standings. This is not going to help that total.
It definitely isn't. Bass is known for, I believe it's more of his consistency, but yet still just isn't consistent. By consistent, we mean, for those who are not totally in tune with everything, there are four essentially skills that each of these drivers have. This race is momentum. Bass is more of I believe it's a consistency track driver, and so he has a lot in there, not so much here, which is why we're seeing him down at the end of the pack here.
Yeah, so we're kind of talking about the extremes earlier with who is up front. So Bass is actually one of the race winners. He won Mexico. He finished 6th in Great Britain and Belgium. He has finished 19th or 20th more times than he's finishing the points.
Correct. Yep, and that's exactly where it hits in regards to what I was saying about where his skill level is on different tracks. And he really does. He focuses on one, and you know, there's all different strategies to every driver, every team. It's pretty cool to see just the variety of where people can sort of succeed, where they lay off, and where they can dominate.
And Destruc and Carpentier right now, they're in top. They're still in top. Hood is trying to threaten on the softs, but he is just not getting close enough. The highest finish for your current race leader and, quite frankly, race dominator right now, Destruc, his highest finish this year is 5th. He has finished out of the points more than in. He's been out of the points 4 times. He has no podiums. Guy who's in 2nd right now, Carpentier, finished 4th the first race in Singapore, hasn't even scored points since, let alone been back on a podium. Paul Hood, as we mentioned, has had a really rough go of it. He's only got a couple of points. That was 6, and that was from the first race, then 1 point in Italy and 1 point in Great Britain. So, again, guys who've been finishing towards the bottom are looking up toward the top as Carpentier is going to not get around his teammate. He got pushed wide by a back marker as Reese stems around the outside. Destruc, by the way, he's in the lead and he has the fastest lap, so he's going for everything right now. We only have 3 to go. As Carpentier is going to bump him and run. He gave his teammate the bump and run as Carpentier is going to try and steal the win. Oh, and Destruc goes off. Oh, that's going to get interesting in the debrief, having getting the bump and run from your own teammate.
Yep, and now we're going to see if Paul Hood can maybe track him down. I think those tires, though, on
he's got it's 2 stops. You look at how Roan Destruc's are. Hoods are just about as worn. I know he started in a higher compounded tire, but that's going to even out in the end, I think. This is between Carpentier and Destruc. It might be who finishes these back markers better as we go on to the final lap of the race. It is Carpentier in front, then Destruc in second by a 1.5 seconds. Ria's going to go around the outside, give Carpentier a little bit of trouble. Doesn't seem to matter. So we have come here for the very first time in SCOR F1, and the first time we are in Brazil. The winner, Puff Carpentier, has won the Brazilian Grand Prix. Destruc finishes second, a fantastic first ever 1-2 for Hot Wheels Racing. Paul Hood gets his 4th points finish in his first podium. Magnificent race for him. Chicken comes in 4th. Selick and Hennessy at the line. It goes to Hennessy of the Ferrari, Selick of McLaren, Pierre Hood of Aston Martin, 7th, Brooks in 8th, 3 in 9th. Shettle, where is he? We're waiting for him to come across. He's coming across with his teammate right behind him, a lap down. Shettle comes in 10th. Lewis will not get points. The first non-points finisher is 11th. Then Burkhart next across the line into 12th. Devil will come 13th, and that's it. So, what a race. So unfortunately, Destruc just has to settle for having a fastest lap as Carpentier becomes the 7th different winner. Hot Wheels 1 and 2, then the Aston Martins occupy the 3rd slot and the 7th slot. So that's Paul and Pierre with nice finishes for them. Chicken of the Maple Street in 4th, Hennessy of the Ferrari, Selic of the McLaren 5th and 6th, Pierre Hood of the Aston Martin in 7th. I mentioned that earlier. Brooks 8th, 9th, Shettle in 10th. The final points paying position. Lewis, Burkhart, Devil, Jobin, Bobby, Raikkonen, Strategy, Carvalho, Del Torre, and Bass, 11 through 20.
Well, what a race! A bunch of good races tonight. You know, for as close as the Formula 2 and the Formula 3 finished, we got a breath of fresh air here in the Formula 1. Even though there's a bit more dominance there with the separation of drivers.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much, it was pretty close those first 5-6 laps, but from that first pit stop, the Hot Wheels crew did a really nice job, and then the drivers were really, really on it today. dare say I feel a little bad for Destruct finishing in second place, getting the bump and run from his teammate,
From his own
dropping down
teammate.
into a corner with 2 to go.
Yep, exactly. You know, I'm sure they'll talk about it back in the garage, and sort it out, and hopefully get back here for the race tomorrow night.
All right, so where are we tomorrow night is your question. Well, that's a great question. Tomorrow night we are going to be at the Hungaro Ring, or what's supposed to be the Hungaro Ring anyway, I assume, in Hungary. So if you're hungry for more action, there'll be more tomorrow night.
7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, and you guys can do the rest of your time zones for the other ones.
5:30 Pacific. Unless you're in Arizona, then it's 6:30, I think.
Yes, sure. Let's go with that. But meanwhile, thanks again, Leatherneck Mike, for joining tonight. Absolutely appreciate it, and to the rest of all of our viewers, thanks for stopping by, and we will see you tomorrow night.